Today, we have one of the nation's most influential Christian leaders joining us, and that's Bishop T.D. Jakes. We are going to hold up a microscope. In other words, we're going to take a closer look at what Bishop Jakes did with his STEAM Academy this year. Instead of doing it in person with 300 students, he went virtual, and the numbers were enormous. You'll want to hear the rest of that story. We hope that similar efforts can be reproduced across this nation to help prepare our kids to be leaders of tomorrow. You're listening to Opportunity with Tim Scott. I just wanted to say first and foremost, thank you for joining Opportunity with Tim today. Bishop Jakes, there's no question in my mind that as I look around the country, one of the most impactful pastors in all of America, of course, is you. As you know, I've been watching you for more than 15 years on your daily broadcast. So I'm actually a fan, so I'm trying not to be giddy. That does not necessarily work well on podcasts. So I am thankful for your leadership, thankful for your spiritual nourishment and direction, and frankly, thank you for your positivity that is absolutely needed during these whirlwind kind of unprecedented days. And one of the things I'm so excited about having you with me here today is you get to answer a few questions. And one of the more important questions is, how do we lead ourselves and our friends in our community through a global pandemic? You have, I've watched you recently preaching in a church big enough for 20,000 people. And it was empty, but your message was fresh. You were leaning into an audience as if they were there, and it was magnificent. So I'd love to hear some words of encouragement or some spiritual advice. What America needs to hear right now.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Our longstanding relationship has been inspirational, built around our common faith and concern for some of the vicissitudes that attack our country. So thank you again for having me.
Yes, sir.
I think it is of paramount importance that one of the greatest deficits we're having right now is for leadership, really good leadership on all levels. And I think it's not that we don't have titles, but we need clear direction. And what we have right now is massive of confusion, in part because we have so many voices saying so many different things that it has stalled the progress of the country and of the individual. What I have been teaching on every platform available to me is that now is the time that you have to be the CEO of you. You have to garner all the information you can and then make the decisions that are most appropriate for you, for your children, for your family, for your unique set of circumstances that reflect the times that we're living in right now, the challenges that we're facing right now. It's very hard to lead in an unprecedented time. There's no historical data to look to that describes the situation that we're in, a collision between a pandemic, a social justice uprising, an economic downturn, has created, as it were, the perfect storm for a cataclysmic experience. And I think it's very, very important that every person, every individual begin to become more engaged in making the choices that work best for them, rather than to just lean back and listen at all of the bickering back and forth and be stalled at a moment that we need to move forward.
Well, thank you. That is clear wisdom, and certainly three major areas that are the confluence of the events are really straining so much of our psyche, frankly, and our emotional accounts are, I think, overdrawn in many ways. And frankly, as I think about what you've been working on, from spiritual nourishment to, frankly, practical education. STEM education is so important to so many kids around the country, and some of us don't even know how important STEM is, but when you think about STEM plus an A, you get STEAM, which really includes another facet that is improving the outcome of American lives. I know that this summer you were going to have a STEM camp with a lot of STEAM camp with a lot of folks there in person, but because of the global pandemic, you were unable to do that, and that was a serious, complicated problem for a lot of families and kids who were excited about being there. But you found a way to make something happen, not just for the 500 kids, but you did something in the STEAM area that impacted far more kids. Can you talk about how your summer camp went virtual and what were the results of that decision?
Well, first of all, thank you for bringing it up. We started our STEAM program under the umbrella of the Potter's House, a physical event where children came throughout the community and from outside areas as well to be a part of that event, normally running around 300 kids or so. When the pandemic came, I switched the STEAM Academy under the umbrella of the T.D. Jakes Foundation because it had the wherewithal to partner with other corporations. So we got some support from Microsoft, from Texas Instruments. We formed an alliance, and they used our platform because of the vast array of social media influence that we have. We expected about 500 students. We ended up with 5,000 students.
Woo, praise the Lord for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We were all hands on deck. We have 4,000 volunteers that we were able to draw from the church to engage the kids and to develop something of interest for them that really fit their culture, that reflected their ethnicity, their background, and invited them into an experience that they had normally been separated from. One of the goals of the T.D. Jakes Foundation is to help close the digital divide by exposing underserved communities with opportunities. And I think one of the key ingredients when you start talking about STEM versus STEAM, the latest stats suggest that the quickest way to engage Black and brown children in STEM is to add the arts. Whether it is production, whether it's mixing, whether it's soundboards, it becomes a gateway into a deeper understanding of technology. So because we understood that, and one of my staff actually wrote his thesis on that, we decided to add the A and add the arts component with the Dallas Symphony supporting us in the process. We engaged it from the arts perspective and made it STEAM. If we had not cut off registration, I think we would have went to 10,000. We immediately backed off of our push to do it. And what I've been telling corporations is that you have the technology, you have the need for the workforce, we have the people. You have the science, but we have the trust of the community. And I think one of the things that people don't understand in corporate America is that elected officials understand quite well is that the Black church in particular is a gateway to the community. A lot of times they're trying to reach the community, but they're trying to avoid the faith community. In our community, it is imperative. It won't work. Politicians have known it for years. That's why they come by during the campaign and start clapping and singing.
Well, we should come all year round, though. We should come all year round, not just during campaign season.
Yeah, that's you do.
We all need to, though.
Yeah, but they all need to.
Yes, sir.
It's very important, though, that we form an alliance because we have a crisis in a community that's underserved in health, in the digital divide, that has a criminal justice reform problem of massive proportions. And so our foundation wants to take on all of those things. We have brought up under our umbrella the Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative, whereby we have taken 30,000 formerly incarcerated inmates through a 2-year program and helped them to get jobs, helped them to get a place to stay when they got out, and helped them to assimilate back into society. So the foundation not only deals with STEAM,
right,
but it also deals with the terrible problem that we're having in reducing the rate of recidivism and opening up opportunities for people who have been involved largely in nonviolent crimes. 70% of Black people incarcerated are in nonviolent crimes, some of which are now legal. And yet they're still in jail. So when they come out, helping them to assimilate back into society has become a task for the foundation to work with corporate leaders, elected officials, and community leaders to close the gap and the equity that centers around the Black community, and how we can become more competitive and have more equality as it relates to economic empowerment.
Well, Bishop Jakes, you said a lot right there. I want to dig into a few pieces. I know we have a short amount of time left with you, but I do want to dig into it because I had the good fortune of speaking at one of the graduating ceremonies of some of the folks coming out of your program. And when we say recidivism, what we're basically saying is less crime in the community. So your programs are, we all use the word recidivism, but not all of us understand the word recidivism. The way I like to translate recidivism is fewer crimes, more community safety, because you have more jobs, you have more training, and you're better prepared for a sustainable progression towards your highest potential. And that's what your program has not only highlighted, but it's reinforced and made it a part of the DNA of that returning citizen, so they don't have the same challenges that of course leads to more crime. So you're actually talking about making communities safer by the way you help people be reintroduced to the communities that are embracing these returning citizens. And I think that is a powerful statement.
You made a major contribution by coming and speaking for us. We're very grateful to have had you do that. We are focused on reducing the rate of recidivism. We're also focused on prevention, because that's a generational component. It recycles itself from generation to generation. I just got a letter from a guy that said he had 3 generations. His father, his grandfather, and himself and his son was headed to the correctional facility. What people don't understand about recidivism is this: if I come out of prison and I can't get a place to stay because on the application it says, have you ever been incarcerated? And I can't get a job because on the application it says, have you ever been incarcerated? No job, no place to stay. I have no choice but to go back into crime. And so we're trying to give them other options on the front end through STEM and STEAM programs, on the back end in terms of helping them to, what's an Apple phone? How do I operate a phone? What is Zoom? What is technology? They've missed so much. And we've tried to do that through the T.D. Jakes Foundation.
Well, thank you for doing that. And certainly in the STEM arena, in this last iteration of the defense spending bill, I championed a provision that would provide another $14 million to the Department of Defense for HBCU research, development, and testing and evaluation programs, taking the number up to $52 million, because I know that if we are going to focus on the outcomes that we want, HBCUs and the Black church, frankly, are 2 powerful pillars in the community that can actually, as you said, prevent a lot of the challenges that we're seeing throughout the country. And from my perspective, STEAM is embedded in that focus on HBCUs, and the focus on wealth creation, to me, all collides, because STEM is a fantastic path towards economic prosperity, and we need our HBCUs to be funded. So we put that in there. But I want to switch the topic.
Let me just say something really quick about HBCUs. They're such a critical component in equity for the community. We really, really need them. Thank you for doing that. 70% of people who graduate from college or master's degrees level come out of HBCUs. Keeping them alive are vital, not just to the Black community, but to all corporations who are looking for inclusion and diversity. There are huge opportunities to achieve that because of the HBCUs. And I just want to underscore that one of the things that we did with several corporations here in the Texas area is you can go on our T.D. Jakes Foundation site, and we were able to connect educated, affluent African Americans with job opportunities that corporations have not been able to find the diversity that they need. We want to be a bridge between supply and demand so that we can help them, because they think they don't exist. And I told them they're in my choir, they're on my usher board with master's degrees, with doctorate degrees, and unemployed. And so because there has not been a bridge between corporations and faith-based leaders, a lot of times neither side gets what they need out of the deal. So thank you for doing that and including the HBCUs, because they are putting out more and more educated, articulate people who can function on a corporate level.
Of paramount importance. Thank you, sir. Let me switch the topic, because this is something you and I have at least talked about quickly in the past, but I hope that we, and perhaps not now, but in the near future, have a chance to dig into this issue, and it's the issue of wealth creation. One of the things that I've always been impressed about you is that while you are Bishop T.D. Jakes, you're also an entrepreneur. You are a philanthropist in a major way. Affordable housing, wealth creation, and your work in that area complements really well with my passion around opportunity zones, that is trying to attract more resources into our devastated and impoverished communities. Will you talk for just a minute or two about your focus on affordable housing and what you're doing to try to create wealth in communities around the country?
Well, the TD Jakes Real Estate Ventures is a corporation that I started that is focused specifically on that. And when we think, I like to use the term workforce housing,
yes,
because a lot of times when people hear affordable housing, they think of ghettos. What we're really trying to do is make attainable housing for workforce people, not just people of color, but people in general. Most of our cities, our major cities, have people who are first responders now servicing us, taking care of us, nurses, police officers, what have you, who are gainfully employed, but they can't afford to live in the cities they protect. So affordable housing and attainable housing is a critical confluence. Affordable housing and attainable housing, when mixed together, avoid some of the impoverished prisons that become low-income housing, because when you mix them, people get to see and envision themselves living on higher levels. So doing that is very, very important. TDJ Rev is doing that on a massive level. We've targeted several sites in Dallas, in Fort Worth, in Atlanta, in Chicago, and we're moving more and more internationally to attain that. And because of the opportunity zones, there's a great deal of interest and capital to get behind such ventures to create better communities closer to our cities.
Well, I would love for you to work with some of these agencies, whether it's a CFPB or some of the private companies around financial literacy and wealth creation, because what you're talking about, especially from your foundation and other areas that under your umbrella, you can make a sizable impact around the country and close the wealth gap that so many of us are focused on. So I'm going to try to get you in touch with some folks, perhaps at CFPB and others, who have told me they're very interested in financial literacy. So hopefully they'll see this podcast and we'll both turn to you for more direction and information. My final question, Bishop Jakes, and this has been a very quick few minutes with you, but what has been the greatest opportunity? We've heard a lot about obstacles. If you turn the TV on, you see a lot of bad news. That's why I think many accounts are emotionally overdrawn. What would you say are some of the great opportunities that you've seen throughout the pandemic?
Interest rates have never been lower than they are right now.
Good word.
That's what makes attainable homes a really good conversation to have right now. The opportunity zones, when done correctly, create an opportunity for investment for capitalists to engage in putting something back in the community that is not merely philanthropic, but can be an investment with a return behind it. And I think in the midst of all of these adversities, there's a huge opportunity about rethinking, rebuilding, and reestablishing our communities because of these opportunity zones that exist. When they are used for their intended use, they can make a great deal of difference. So the fact that there is low interest rate, the fact that there is a great deal of demand, all helps to aid and create opportunities for the resurgence of businesses for these communities who are having to rethink themselves. If we can build not just houses, but communities with some retail involved in it as well, we can create some small business loans and capital for the communities to reboot themselves. So I think those are great opportunities that exist right now with the lowest interest rates that I've seen in my lifetime.
Wow, that's awesome. As I call you, when you're not around, the man, the myth, and the legend, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Thank you for joining us for Opportunity with Tim. God bless you.